Hey guys, welcome to the Save Continue podcast, where we get together and talk about video games and video game related stuff. As always, I'm Shanae Howard, and with me is Tommy Shelby.
Hello.
And Ryan Robinson.
Hi.
So everyone will be happy to hear I have a new game to talk about for the next year.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
I finished Tears of the Kingdom.
Right.
Yay.
And now I'm playing Baldur's Gate 3.
Oh, cool. Did you get Minoru,
Minoru?
the fifth sage?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I did. I had to step up though whenever I was watching the ending stuff, so I didn't get to see how what my percentage was of how much of the game I did.
When you load your save file, it'll be on the map. Like the map screen shows your percentage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I was kind of pushing it off for a while and trying to upgrade a lot of my armor, and so I was just Lionel hunting for like 3 days straight.
Yeah.
And then I finally said fuck it and beat Ganondorf. But me and Berto have been playing Baldur's Gate 3. It's really good.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things.
Yeah, Berto said he wanted to go into this blind, so I was like, okay, cool, I'll do the same. So I tried to stay away from any video or any review or anybody any trailers or anything for it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until yesterday that I realized that a whole bunch of online conversations being happened about the fact that it's not gonna have microtransactions, which just feels really over dramatic in my opinion.
Well,
Like people want it to have microtransactions?
like they want to pay more money?
So from my understanding, Larian Studios put out a statement that hey, there's going to be sorry about that. There's going to be no microtransactions. There's not going to be battle pass stuff. Sorry,
so
one second.
Yeah, so they want more of an expansion than
So-
microtransactions.
Well, so they said that. So apparently, some other studios had some feelings about it, and so they were oh, well, they're an independent company. They don't have all these things. They can set their own timetables. Don't hold all these other studios to the standard of them, which just seems unnecessarily defensive for a statement that Larian Studios weren't making digs. So why be defensive?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, that studio has a lot of money and a lot of people. It's not like some small indie team. This is the Divinity team, But
Yeah.
it's not, I don't know. No, it's okay. That's Shanae's bad dog.
Yeah. It was penetrating the walls before the show, and then it continues to penetrate after, during the show. Which, Tom and I have maintained for a while that she's got behavioral problems, and now you guys see what we're talking about.
Shanae can hear you.
Yeah.
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 She's gonna come back in and be mad at you.
Yeah. She just throw a drink in my face.
I mean, maybe.
I mean, look, through the magic of the internet, anything is possible.
Yeah.
Well, so
Uh-oh.
yeah. Do need to work on the barking thing, but there is a stray dog that nobody's been able to catch, and Luna's been really reactive to it.
Yeah.
So it's been something we have to constantly be on her about, so she can hear the other dogs, the neighbor dogs, freaking out about the stray dog.
Right.
So she's joining them
Yeah.
without even being able to see this dog.
She knows there's something going on because
It's fine.
they're saying stuff,
Yeah.
so she wants to be part of the conversation. She's having FOMO
Yeah, no,
about that stray dog.
Yeah, no, she's giving into peer pressure
Yeah.
real hard, and I keep talking to her about it,
Oh.
but gentle parenting is not working.
Yeah, stray dogs is a gateway drug.
But yeah, no, I mean, yeah, they're not a small studio, but they're not Activision big as far as Larian Studios goes, and also back to the topic we were talking about before. But no, it's it feels so much like Divinity 2, and
Yeah.
which is like a high compliment because I did love that game and I've played through it
Yeah.
multiple times. That actually is the reason why I wanted our topic today. But what have you guys been playing?
Ryan knows that the only thing I've really been playing recently is Kirby and the Forgotten Lands. I haven't really had time for a lot of video games, and this game, it's a Kirby game.
Yeah.
I've always liked Kirby games since the very first one, right?
Yeah, you suck and
But
spit.
they're easy baby games. They are,
Yeah, no.
you know.
Yeah.
But like
Kirby himself
for
is
not
baby.
having a lot of time to invest in video games recently, like it's nice to just throw something on and mindlessly go through it.
For sure.
Yeah.
I can see that.
So I've been enjoying it, and it's not technically the first 3D Kirby game, but like it is,
Yeah.
and I think it's transitioned to 3D very, very gracefully. It's a lot of fun.
What's the coolest form he gets in that game?
Well, do you mean like the copy ability stuff, or do
Yeah.
you mean like the weird thing where he like sucks up the car?
Both.
The car.
Okay.
At least so far. There's this one thing where he's like a giant fan, and that's pretty fun. And there's like a light bulb thing that's pretty fun. But like, yeah, I mean, it's Kirby. It's exactly what you would expect it to be. But like, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, considering how god awful Star Allies was. Like, I feel like it's hard to make a bad Kirby game, but they managed to. Like with the
Where
first...
there is a will, there is a way.
Well, it's like the same problem as like, I don't know. I guess I shouldn't compare it to those games. It's like that game is intended to be played multiplayer, so when you're playing it single player, like the level design just doesn't really fit,
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's Kirby, man.
What about you, Ryan? What have you been playing?
Street Fighter 6. And
Yes.
So a character from Street Fighter 5 has entered the Street Fighter 6 roster. His name is Rashid. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Rashid is generally a pretty cool guy, all things considered. That being said, I fought like 6 Rashids consecutively today, and
You're over him?
I'm not over him, but it's just like he's still pretty new, and everybody's playing him the same. And it got predictable, and like those matches got predictable and boring pretty fast. But I've also been playing a character that I haven't really played like really ever. I've been playing a lot of Ryu lately, so that's been a fun little challenge for me. Also earlier today, for the first time ever, I finished a run of State of Decay 2. What that entails is basically every character that is in your camp has a trait. So there's like a sheriff trait, a medic trait, a trader trait, like not betrayal, but like as in trade and barter, not he's a traitor.
Yeah. Commerce.
There's a warlord trait, and there's all these other traits. So I did one that was the builder trait. And so there's like a little storyline that you have to follow, which essentially is comprised of like doing specific objectives to build your base in a specific way. And that was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun doing that. And the more I play that game, the more it cements itself as like my go-to like chill out game as of late. Like my wife thinks that's weird because the game is full of zombies and they're kind of chomp at you. But I don't know, that game kind of just mellows me out because there's a really
Because you thirst for murder.
A little bit. But so there was near the end, like when my base had gotten built up, there were these people who were approaching my base who were like, "Hey, we'd like you to let us in." And I'm like, "Well, I'm kind of full up, so I can't really let you in." And then so they left, and then this other guy came with his friend. He was like, "Bring me in. Don't bring in my friend Rick though, because if you do, you'll be sorry." And I was like, "Well, I'm not letting either of you in." And then those first guys came back and were like, "You should have let us in when you had the chance. Now you'll be sorry." And then they started shooting off their guns all wild, and they brought a bunch of zombies to my base, but I killed them. Anyway, that was a fun little hour and a half that I had today, and I finished my first run, and I'm looking forward to doing the next one. And I guess that's all I've really played is just Street Fighter and State of Decay lately. They're both really fun, and if you have the ability to play either of those, you definitely should.
Nice.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'm actually gonna do a new character run of Baldur's Gate after after we get done recording today. Me and Britta have been playing together because we're both excited about it. And the last game that we really liked playing together was Divinity 2, so it kind of just made sense. But like I was saying earlier, there's so many things that remind me of Divinity 2, and one is like the tutorial areas. There is like a lot of similarities, and the tutorial areas, even though they are great, are so long that it's like I've kind of been dreading like making new characters just because like of how long it takes to really get into the game because there is so much.
Mhm.
And yeah, so that's why I wanted to talk to you guys. Like, what do you, what do you call like a tutorial? Because not all of it, like, because some things like I'm like this, like I'm calling it tutorial area. It's just the first area. There's like 4 of them in each game that you go
Yeah.
to. So, but I just consider this like first area the tutorial area because that's where you learn everything. That's where like you get the
Right.
pop-ups for.
But it absolutely is, you know? Like, I think I really dislike when games have, like, here's the separate tutorial part, and then here's the game. I much prefer it to be part of the game, like you're talking about, right? A lot of games do this, and even some games I like do this. I just don't like that, right? Like Tomb Raider 1 does it, where you're like in Croft Manor, and for some reason Lara Croft's got like these weird platforms all over the place, you know?
Yeah.
But it doesn't teach you to shoot ever,
Yeah.
you know? Like this is really, really weird. Or like, what is that game called, Ryan? That came out where it's like you're roller skating and shooting. Rollerdrome.
Yep.
Like I was watching Bradley play that earlier today, and like, yeah, it's like, okay, here's a separate thing to do your tutorial. Now go play the game. Like, I don't like that.
Yeah.
The amount of people that start a game versus like everybody's going to start the game. Very few people are going to finish the game, right? And if you can't keep the player's attention early on, I mean, that's just fewer people that are actually going to see it through.
Yeah.
So I definitely prefer when the tutorial is part of the actual game, like it's not its own separate area or level,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I think that tutorials are. It is really easy to make it boring, especially when like there's nothing interesting is happening during it, and like if it's really long, like some games have like a like a 15-20 minute tutorial that is like still sectioned off from the rest of the game, and you're just like, well, when am I gonna get to play this fucking game? Because like you guys keep stopping me to tell me more stuff, and I want to play the game, and I want to experiment, and you know, just I want to learn the game.
What about those like infamous tutorials where you start the game off with like all the big powers and then like you lose them and go back through?
Oh, like Metroid?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I guess that the point of those is like what you said, is to hook people in to continue to play the game. But I don't like the switcheroo. It feels rude almost. It's like, no, you don't get takesy backsies. You already gave me this.
Yeah.
This is mine now.
I guess it could.
I don't know. Some of my favorite games do that, you know?
I guess it could
Like
work.
what?
Like Metroid.
Metroid, Castlevania, like, you know?
Like when you start fucking Symphony of the Night, Richter can do all sorts of crazy shit, and then you gotta start over as Alucard, and he can't do his crazy shit yet.
Well, even Alucard. Alucard has an insane moveset until you hit Shaft, and then he takes it all away.
Yeah, you don't want to hit that shaft.
But
Yeah, like I've of two minds of that style, whereas like it's kind of cool because it gives you a glimpse of what your character's going to be able to do later, and it gives you something to look forward to. But on the other hand, like you spend the game like you might spend the game like wishing you had that stuff the whole time, and then when you finally get it, it's sometimes not till the very end of the game. So I'm not always a fan of that. But so I was playing this game recently, like in the last week or so, called Hard Space Shipbreaker.
Oh yeah.
And so basically the core conceit of the game is that you're this person in who works for this company who salvages spaceships, and you make money for every part of the ship that you successfully salvage or whatever. And the way but the thing is that like as you're doing that, you're you're supposed to be working off a debt that you've accrued working for this company. And the way that they do it is that everything that you're doing in the tutorial goes toward your actual progress, right? So it's not like sectioned off. Like you have someone in your ear telling you like how to do certain things and giving you hints or whatever, but you are still playing like the core game as they're teaching you the game and how to use your tools.
Right.
And I like that a lot better than like, okay, now you've learned all this stuff, you've salvaged all these ships. Okay, now go do it for real, and now you can get the money that you're supposed to be getting. I don't really. So I prefer it when it's like integrated into the core experience, and it's kind of like it's kind of fashioned like on the job training, as it were, as opposed to like being sectioned off in like a little classroom to learn.
Well, and there's a lot of different ways of doing that, right? And I think there's ways that work very well and ways that work poorly. Like everybody, when they talk about tutorials, talk about 1-1 from Super Mario Brothers, right? And you go to the right and you hit the Goomba and you die. So what do? You push one of the only two buttons that you can push and you jump over the thing, right? Like, right. And it goes on from there. Nintendo's very good at that. They always have been. They still are. I like that.
Even with Tears of the Kingdom, there's no, like some of the stuff, like it just keeps being organically taught. Like I realized at the end of the game, I hadn't unlocked all the, like when you go to options and look at the move sets and how to do them, there's one I still hadn't unlocked because I just never pressed that button combo.
But then like the other way of doing it that I think works really well is like the first Dead Space, where it's like it's all contextual to the game, right? Much like the HUD is like exists in game. When you first see your life bar fill up on your back, like Kendra tells you what she is doing, so you know what that is. When you first come across stasis, it is on the floor in front of a door that is too fast for you to go through, and the information on that in-game product tells you that it will slow down objects. Even just button prompts, like it's all contextualized. I think that's a really good way to do it. I have a problem with video games that like, the main way you interact with the game is not the way that you are taught the game, right? Deus Ex has a problem where it's like we have people that speak with you and we have text logs, but the entire tutorial is going to be one giant video clip, and hopefully you remember it all at that one time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
and that's actually so Elite Dangerous like was really bad about their tutorials when I started playing, and over time they kind of got better about like giving you tutorials for like each like main thing that you'd be doing with your ship. But at first it was just like there was a window that would open and it was like, click here for a YouTube video on how to do this thing, and I'm like, what the fuck? Which is not useful, right? Because like it's not giving me like real-time instruction on how to play the game, and especially for a game that's like really heavy on the mechanics and like is very simulation heavy, I was like, I'm not going to get this by watching a video. So
well, and they should teach it to you as you're going to use it. What's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to move. What's the next thing you're going to do? You're going to jump, then you're going to shoot. Like they should teach you those things as you are going to perform those actions, know.
I think so like Kingdom Hearts 1, the tutorial for that I hate and love for like different reasons. So like as far as like context goes, it's really good about that because like you're on the island and you're learning the story about the kids that like want this destiny, want this adventure. You talk to the other kids on the island. They have you do like little like combat kind of stuff. And that's where I don't like, because like
Oh yeah, you do this weird race and all of that.
you do the
Yeah.
race, you also have to do like stuff with I think it's like I'm forgetting the names right now, but like I think Waka with the like a volleyball. There's a
Yeah.
girl with a little whip, but that's not really how any of the enemies like fight. So a lot of the stuff that you're doing in there isn't really necessarily like the same way that you'll be playing the game. Yes, like it's really good about learning like I guess like maneuvering around and platforming. It's like pretty decent at that because you're like trying to win the race, so you have to like learn shortcuts and like different things, different ways to move.
Yeah.
But also like at the same point, it's also just like not really how you play the rest of the game as far as fighting enemies.
And
Even
it
when you
feels like
finally-
a separate thing. Like
Yeah.
that whole little starter island feels like a separate. It doesn't feel like the game has started until you get to that first town. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, until Traverse Town.
Yeah.
But like that's the whole thing. It's supposed to feel very idyllic. Like it's just like you're on this vacation island. I mean, not really vacation, but like you're on this like beautiful island. It like
Yeah.
there's like, and then to have it ripped away and be lost and like deal with darkness and have all these crazy things happening to these like random island kids. It's supposed to have that dichotomy, which like story wise makes sense, and also like even narratively makes you like feel more endeared to these kids. They're like all you've known is island.
Yeah.
And you know the thing about that is that if the tutorial, for me anyway, if the tutorial doesn't match like what I'm actually doing moment to moment in the game, then I start like wondering like, am I playing this game wrong? Like, am I not doing like the things right? Like, am I not maximizing like what I'm like maximize my output in this video game? And then like that becomes like a nagging thing in my head. And then also like I spend an inordinate amount of time kind of trying to like force certain like mechanics I learned into the tutorial into like whatever I'm doing in the game, even where it doesn't work. I'm just like, like you guys taught me how to do this for a reason. So
see, for me, it's the opposite of that. It's like if you're teaching me stuff and not giving me an opportunity to use it until much later, I'm gonna forget about that by the time I get to that thing, you know, and then just not use what is probably an important function of the video game for the majority of the video game, you know.
I mean, it's part of the reason why, like, what makes Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild is so good is that, like, you're constantly forced to like utilize all the different powers and abilities, and so if you games incentivize you to like really be creative with that and all the options they do give you.
Well, and a lot of people point to the Great Plateau as like one of the best tutorials, right? And you start with nothing, and there's boxes, and you can get clothes from those boxes, and then there's like a wall that you have to climb to progress. You know, it does teach you all those things. That first island does teach you all those things, but it still feels like legitimate gameplay. Anything that you gain while you're there is yours to keep, you know. But yeah, I think what else is like, I really like games that don't give you any tutorial, but I think it only works with certain games, right? Like Downwell. You got one button in that game. What does Downwell really need to teach you?
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can just kind of go. Tetris is the same way. Tetris never tells you push this button to rotate this way and that button to rotate that way, right?
Yeah.
It's just like go, because you surely can figure this out, you know?
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Obviously that doesn't work with a lot, probably most modern games, you know?
Yeah.
But
like
yeah.
a lot of those older games, like they kind of, you know, you're gonna figure it out, right? Because you only have like when you're approaching, like the thing with a lot of older games is that you kind of know right away, like looking at it, like what kind of game it is, and then you can then you could very easily like just looking at the screen, like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like if there's a guy that I gotta hit, then one of these 3 buttons is gonna hit that guy, and then I'm gonna keep going. Whereas
Pac-Man, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, what do they have to teach you?
there are no buttons in Pac-Man, so like just move the stick, right? But you know, but like with more mechanics heavy games, especially nowadays, like I think about like I was just thinking about playing Street Fighter 2, right? And there's never been a tutorial for Street Fighter 2. You just kind of like you have your instruction booklet. It tells you how to do the special moves. You figure out when to do them, and that's it, right? You figure out like whatever you need to figure out. And then as you know, as things progress and then the mechanics get more dense, then they start adding tutorials to kind of teach you the game. Whereas before, in the original era of those games, it was kind of like punch the other guy, right?
Right.
Throw out some fireballs. Why don't you? But
I think one of my biggest pet peeves in tutorials is when there's like really bad pacing between teaching you stuff and cutscenes.
yeah,
I like maybe like some of them are probably trying to hide loading screens, but I really don't like. I don't know the right term, but I don't like whenever it's like, oh, you get all the cutscenes. It's like now you can move, and you move like 2 feet, and it's another cutscene, and then it's like oh, press R to like look at it closer, and it's just like and it's cutscene again, like I get that there's probably a lot of thought put into the pacing that like I just am not like aware of or like studies done with it, but like it's so annoying and frustrating to me. Like I'd rather just watch a continuous cutscene and then have to read like 4 pages of how to move around and then get to be able to and then like watch a longer one. I like the stop and go makes me want to put a new game down so fast.
I actually noped out of a game before I finished the tutorial. I tried that what was that fucking game called? I tried Black Desert Online one time.
Yeah.
And like I just like I chose my character out of the one of 20,000 characters that they let you pick. And then like they would say, all right, this is how you do this attack. And then I would do it, and then I'd have to watch like a 2-minute long cutscene before they let me do anything. And they kept doing that. And I never got out of the tutorial. I was like, I can't do this. I fucking can't with this game. And I just turned it off. And I was like, this game seems neat, but like I've barely gotten to play it in the hour that I've spent with it on. So I'm done. Right.
Yeah, like Hogwarts Legacy was like tutorial was really bad about it, and like some of it, like the cutscene was like literally just walking up to the wall that it said examine. And then it would just position me in the right spot and then tell me to press a button. And I'm like, okay, this had to be a loading screen that you were just covering up.
Yeah.
But like I'd rather just see the loading symbol in the back, like, and then like you move my character like on screen. I don't want to see I don't want that changed to like the cinematic view and back.
Yeah.
I think nowadays I prefer that, right? Nowadays when loading is faster than it used to be. I mean, not faster than it was on carts, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Ryan likes the bouncer,
Love that game.
The bouncer has a ridiculous amount of cinematics and a ridiculous amount of load time.
Very compelling.
Like compared to the amount of actual gameplay.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm.
I'm almost certain there's less gameplay than there are cutscenes in that game. But like
quality,
Yeah, but like I think what I like the least is like when a game is just like somebody telling you, okay, press this button to do that and press that button to do that. Like I don't like that except when it is contextualized.
Sure.
Like with like Metal Gear Solid, right? You're talking to Campbell and he's like, if you need to do this, do that, like whatever. Like I like that. It works. It makes sense at least, right? It doesn't make sense that they're telling you press the X button or whatever, because like what X button? But like it makes they're at least trying, right?
Sure,
or like with Blood Dragon, like they do the whole thing, but they make fun of it the whole time. They're self-aware about it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that because my wife actually has said, she's like, I don't like it when they know that they're in a video game.
Yeah.
Which I totally I get that,
I don't need that fourth wall break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, the thing is, I don't necessarily like hate the like do a move then get like the pop up or have like a cinematic, because like granted it was great about this in like general in the gameplay, but like God of War Ragnarok, the tutorial also does the same thing. Like you get those like either slow down moments where a pop up happens or it goes to a cinematic in between in the tutorial. But that one was just so much like quicker. And then if it did do like a cinematic, most of the time it wasn't just them moving a couple feet, except for whenever they're going between like a crack in the wall and they're like shimmying and it's like an entirely different new area. That was like obviously a bit of a load thing, but that didn't happen too terribly much in the tutorial.
I was thinking about I was thinking just now about Control. and as you progressing through the game, you get different powers, and they basically tutorialize that by like when you get the power, it's like here's some guys to use that power on, so you can get used to it, and then that's pretty much it, right? Like it's like it's about
It's like a little obstacle course.
It's like a little obstacle course, and you like because you basically it takes you to some other alternate reality where you kind of learn how to use that power against some guys. You get to the end of the course, and then you're just back in the game. In some ways, like I feel like that can be helpful in that it helps to really contextualize the power for you. But at the same time, I also wish that I wish that instead of doing that, they gave me like a actual like in-game scenario to like test the powers on, instead of like taking me to like another place. Like just like maybe just like a quick window, like, hey, this power does this, is how you use it, and then the guys come and attack me, and then I, practice that way.
I do love when games have like the beginning area has like little training dummies you can practice on.
Yeah.
And have that as an option. Do like that. But also like I don't like whenever like the tutorial information that you can always like go back in the settings and like look at later is written in the context of the game. Because when I'm trying to figure out like how different mechanics work, I don't want to like also have to think about it in the context of the game. I'm trying to figure out management.
Yeah. I think like it can be done gracefully, right? Like button prompts can be done very well. Not when it's like a giant picture, like a giant fucking PNG of that button, and it's like do this, win this. Whenever this happens, push R1 or whatever. Like I hate that.
Yeah.
But like when it's just a very subtle thing, like here's the button as you approach the door, right? That's the button you push to open the door, and it doesn't have to say anything. You just know that because of the picture, right? I think it can be done very well. Again, Zelda does that very well, especially in that, like, and I think more games across all platforms should do this when they're showing you your controls. Don't tell me A, B, X, or Y. Show me the 4 buttons, the 4 face buttons, and which one I'm pressing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
and I think that like of the ones that we've talked about, like I'm thinking about what you said about Dead Space, and I like the way that they did it, because it feels like they're kind of trusting the player to kind of like pick up on like what they're supposed to be doing, as opposed to like explicitly stating it to them, like kind of just like just take a look. This is how you use it. Pick up on the context.
You're right. I think with some of it, it does it's very successful, and some of it falls apart, right? Like Kendra telling you about your health bar as you see it fill, so you know what that is. Like that makes sense. The stasis thing makes sense. I don't need to be told to cut off their limbs 3 fucking times,
especially considering especially considering the fact that like just like the stasis thing, where like it's showing you like this is like it gives you the information like in the environment of how stasis works. And also like all over the like people have written in blood all over the fucking walls of the Ishimura, like cut off their limbs, right?
Right.
So like I got it.
But
right?
You see it, you're told it by I forget his name. But you see it, somebody tells you,
Homeboy,
and then you read it.
Yeah.
All within a matter of a minute.
Yeah.
Hey, we're telling you to do something. Do the fucking action.
But also like I think that there is some credit to be gained from like kind of like trusting the player to like figure out like if you show the player like generally how something works, then like letting them figure out how to utilize that in the environment is like very valuable.
And Dead Space does a great job with that, right? It shows you cut off their limbs, it shows you stasis, and then it makes you perform both of those at the same time.
Right.
Which
is like, and then you're like, oh, this is probably going to become like core to like what I'm doing for the next 15 hours.
Because the first puzzle is that tram thing.
Yeah.
You have to stasis that arm while also dealing with, 2 or 3 enemies,
Yeah.
And it teaches you one, teaches you the other, and then makes you practice them both,
Yeah. and then like I think about like that's also like that tram thing is like one of those puzzles, and like I've never like ever since like the original version of that game, I never struggled with that puzzle, so I don't know if it does this. But something that like I have seen with puzzles like that is where they basically task you with completing it, and then once a certain amount of time has elapsed, and it's like implied that you're struggling with it, then someone will like basically explicitly tell you like,
oh,
you need to do this to do the thing, okay? Like you're taking too long.
Yeah. I don't know if it does that or not, but like that was the big complaint with Ragnarok, right? Was that people are telling you how to solve shit before you have a chance to even get a look at it, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Which I think should always be optional. Like I don't think there should be like a gate to like how long it takes me to like figure something out. Like if I want to beat my head against this thing for an hour and a half, let me. Right. But then like again, I think that's just another instance of like this is how you effectively use this tool. I can't recall how often stasis is used in that way in that game. I think maybe one other time. I can't remember. But so it's not significant, but it does a pretty good job up to that point of letting me know how that tool works, without like putting me in like a tutorial course where I like stasis a bunch of things to get them to go.
Right.
I also value the optional tutorial, especially when it comes to like a game that like I'm replaying and not having to like play through the tutorial like for my 5th playthrough. And then like the option, of course, also to like in the middle of the tutorial, like opt out of like further sections. Like I complete the first section of the tutorial, and then like if I feel comfortable, let me opt out of the rest of the tutorial if I want to.
Yeah.
I feel like that's goes a long way toward like, you know, me not wasting a bunch of time, but especially if in the case of Cyberpunk, your tutorial is broken in some parts and I have to start the game over.
Do you prefer that the game teach you literally everything?
No, because I think that like I like the idea of getting like the bones of like my tool set and then being given the opportunity to be creative with how I utilize that. I feel like that kind of makes it feel a lot more satisfying versus like you telling me how to do everything. Like example, right? Like I was playing Hi-Fi Rush kind of recently, and it gives you like it allows you to mix and match heavy and light attacks, and like a lot of games of this type, there's like a screen that tells you like what all the combos are, and a lot of times the game will stop you to tell you how to do certain combos or whatever. But with how intuitive it is to like perform the attacks in that game, because there's only 2 attack buttons in the game, it would have been cooler to like be able to figure that stuff out on my own and like have that aha moment where like I figured out a cool combo that I could do. But so I kind of prefer if the game like lets me figure that out on my own, and then if I so choose, give me the option to have more guidance with that.
See, so games like that, like, and I don't put that game anywhere near the same level as something like Devil May Cry or Bayonetta, right? But like, those games basically give you fighting game training mode, you know?
Yeah.
Which I like. For games with combat of that depth, I like to have that option, you know?
Yeah.
But I do see what you're saying, though.
I play a lot of games that have a lot of, like, I guess, like, action management in it. So think, like, there's, like, Three Houses, like, Persona.
Yeah.
Like, even Tears of the Kingdom to, like, an extent as well. And now, like, Baldur's Gate 3. So I like a lot of mechanic tutorials, and I like that, like, when games, especially those, like, magnitude, have the option where you can go in, like, reread those tutorials to see what, like, when you have better knowledge of how they, like, actually work when it comes to gameplay, like, see what they're trying to point out as being, like, a great way to utilize it. Because a lot of games I played, they just, like, it's so much that sometimes I also just didn't realize how things interconnected and how much I could boost, like, what I was doing with these, like, side actions that I wrote off as boring and unnecessary.
Yeah.
So, like, I I like it, yeah, but I also like at the same point, like I don't want like necessarily everything spelled out when it comes to combat or how to like play my character in like real time. But
Yeah.
as far as like all the available mechanics, I want nicely detailed info on all of that. Please and thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm totally with you, Shanae. Like, it just depends on what kind of game it is, for sure, right? Like, my brain goes to like 3D platformers, and like, you know, like Crash Bandicoot can only do so many things. He doesn't have a lot of options, right? But Mario and Mario 64 or Mario Odyssey, right, has a lot of fucking options. And like, the game tells you that you can do your classic Mario 64 triple jump and all that, and the butt pound, and that you can throw the hat, and that you can jump off the hat, right? But the game never tells you that you can jump and then throw the hat and then jump off the hat and then dive, and you know, like, it doesn't tell you that you can do all these crazy things.
Yeah.
That you have to discover for yourself. I've also heard people bring up like Dark Souls tutorials and shit like that, where like it'll tell you the minimum of what you need to get by,
Yeah.
but a lot of players still don't know what certain things do until they fuck around with it, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's a cool way of doing it as well, as long as they're giving you the vital information.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But like,
Or at least like pushing you to like try and find out.
Yeah.
I don't know, like more, because like Mario Odyssey, to an extent, you can at least finish the game without like
Yes,
learning
you
how
can
to
finish the game with what you've been told.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
on there, Dark Souls not so much. But that's also their like shtick or gimmick is like how difficult it is, and that includes the learning curve and how to play it.
yeah.
So I mean, I guess it works for that, but like, I at least want to know that like the ability to like do those chain actions are there.
Mm-hmm.
I would
Yeah.
like when I like, for me, the kind of game player I am, when I booted up Dark Souls, like something saying like, hey, really like watch out on timing. These guys move slow. Something where I'm like, oh, hey, this isn't like every other like hack and slash or whatever adventure game that I've played. This like, I'm gonna have to be more conscientious of combat if I like went into the game knowing nothing. Granted,
Right.
that like most of the people when they've played any of the Dark Souls games, like they already know what the franchise is like, so they don't need that heads up.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that like it's for players like me, that's what I would want. But I understand like why not everybody else would.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. But I also think like, I think about, I don't know, I think about like how I have like, I think this is something that is like propagated in me like within the like the last few years, is that I have less and less tolerance for having to go to Google to like learn things about the game. Like I just don't have a lot of interest in doing that anymore, and I get a little annoyed when I get to the point where I have to do that. Like okay, so like in State of Decay, there's this mechanic in the game that when you capture an outpost, that outpost will give you resources, a specific kind of resource every day depending on the outpost. But like, it wasn't clear on whether or not like I had fully looted the outpost, would I still get those resources? Do I have to leave stuff in the outpost to get those resources? I wasn't really clear about that. And so like I had to go to the internet and search around for longer than I expected to actually get like a concrete answer to that.
Yeah.
And like likewise with like to like an even worse degree, for most of the entries in the series, like with Monster Hunter, like that game does very little to teach you. That game has classically done very little to teach you how to play it. And I've spent so much of my time like on the internet over the last 17 years, like looking up how to like play those games, because like certain mechanics aren't like spelled out and certain things aren't like really taught to me, and like some of like a lot of stuff is like really opaque. Now I get that there's value in like having like little hidden things, like little strategies that you could use, but like there is stuff that is like I feel is like really vital to like actually onboarding people into the game. That is like, I feel like those games are like needlessly opaque in a lot of different ways. Even with all the improvements that Monster Hunter has made over the last 17 years of its existence, it's still like really opaque in a lot of like really important ways. And I wish that like they would just like be more okay with letting people know like really what's needed to actually play this game like competently, you know? But
I think there's so much of that though. Right now, I don't really think it's getting better. Like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of games leave out important information, right? Like Ridge Racer, at least the earlier ones, never said like, "Hey, you need to drift, and here's how you do it." Right? Like they might tell you how to do it in some kind of half-assed way that doesn't really explain it well, you know.
Mhm.
Or like the bouncer again. The bouncer never tells you can block,
Right.
and in most beat 'em ups you can't block. So why
Right.
would you know that
like
was
you're
a
gonna
thing?
you're gonna assume
You
it's
know?
not a thing.
Yeah, you know, like
Even like while the other guys are blocking you, like you're just like that's
Yeah.
I mean that you still assume, because like even like look at Final Fight, right? There's those Axl Rose looking motherfuckers like on the train. like they can fucking block, but you can't, right?
right.
So like you're just gonna
They're
assume
just
that you can't.
haunting you.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, most beat 'em ups you can't, right? And the game never once tells you, "Hey, push this button to block."
Yeah.
But
Yeah. So,
yeah,
To kind of go back to your thing like way earlier, Ryan, about liking when tutorial areas, whatever you do in those actions, like transfer over to the game,
mhm.
like paying off the debt. I can get down with a long tutorial as long as it's like pretty well paced, or like I'm learning a lot of things. But I hate when it's a long tutorial and there's all these decisions that you make that transfer over that you can't change later once you get
Oh,
a
yeah.
better grasp of the game.
Yeah.
And that's like a thing with Divinity 2 is like some of it, like even mid tutorial, I'm just like, well, that one you can like change other stuff, but like, but yeah, I appreciate you giving me all the things, but let me have one character like re-roll right after I get out of the tutorial area, so I can make like the best character going forward. Because otherwise, I might just quit your game and never play it again.
Yeah, and I feel
dude.
like Bethesda games had been good about that at a certain point. Then they kind of stopped giving you that option for some reason. Like I remember like playing the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, where by the time you get to the end of the tutorial dungeon, they're like, "Hey, now that you know how to play this game, you want to do your character a little different. You want to make them look different. You want to give them different skills."
I think Fallout 3 lets you adjust
Yeah.
the whatever it's called.
Yeah, they let
You
you
know.
do that, but then in Fallout 4, you get to the end of the tutorial and you're just kind of fucking stuck like that.
Yeah.
Which, you know, it can be annoying because, like, especially for games like that, like specifically like Skyrim and Fallout 4, they have really long, boring, drawn-out sequences before
Yeah.
you're actually doing anything of consequence. And so, like, if you don't like a decision that you made up to that point, then that means either living with it or going through that sequence again. And I don't want to do that.
I think more so with those games, like specifically games pre Fallout 4. Like, let me know that all of this shit is worthless,
Yeah.
or don't let me pick it up.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna spend half the game over encumbered because I think eventually I'm gonna use this worthless item. You know,
it's so weird, right? Like that they actually
Yeah.
like it. Granted, yes, you could sell that stuff for money, I guess, but like
sure.
there's other stuff that's more valuable that you could be using your encumbrance
Yeah.
limit on instead. And
Yeah.
it's just so like it's just the idea is like you can pick up whatever you want. That makes this world, you know,
Yeah.
more immersive or
It's
whatever.
not fucking Shenmue, you know. I
Yeah.
don't need it to be that, but like,
Yeah.
what I another one that really pissed me off, like within the last year, which makes me interested to see like the Baldur's Gate tutorial or even like the Diablo 4 tutorial, is like I was playing Roller Coaster Tycoon Classic,
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
and like, you know, it's been fucking forever since I played a Roller Coaster Tycoon game. So like, I'm starting fresh. You need to tell me how to play this game.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, click the concession stand button. but it never tells you what button is that button.
You'll figure
And
it out.
like the little image on that button don't look like anything, you know, and like
Yeah.
you hover over it, it doesn't tell you shit.
Yeah.
So it's just you're just fucking clicking around, you know.
Yeah. And I
But-
think that a lot of live service games are like especially bad about that, where like
Yeah.
if you've been away from the game for a while, like let's say you step away from the game for like a year or so, and then you get back into the game, and it's like, well, I don't remember how to play the game. Teach me how to play the game again. And they're just not going to.
Right.
It's just like fuck
I-
you.
Well, it's not even teach me how to play the game again. It's teach me how to play it once.
Yeah.
You know, like
Sure.
or have the
Show me
buttons,
show me
have the
one
buttons
time.
clearly
Yeah.
defined.
Yeah.
Like that's one thing that Divinity 2 and Baldur's Gate, like they're not very nice about teaching you even how to utilize the map. Like I know how to because I played Divinity 2, but like
Right.
even then, like it is different enough that I'm like how do I check this shit out? How do I even like look at it? And I'm like trying to figure out like why I can't see something on a map, and I'm like, oh, I have to be in a specific area. I forgot. Like I can't like exit out of something and see like a larger map
Yeah,
zoom
yeah, yeah.
area. Like, yeah, no, I wish that like I definitely appreciate the bare definitions like or instructions on how to like utilize the settings and like UI for it.
Well, you know, like a lot of MMOs and, you know, even like a lot of Blizzard games, right? Like you just hover over the button and it'll give you some information.
Yeah.
Yes,
Like just fucking do that, you know?
yes.
Tell me something.
Yeah.
Give me a hint. I'm an idiot.
And I guess I don't see the value in like hiding that from you. Like I don't.
Well, and look, I'm sure when Roller Coaster Tycoon originally came out, there was some manual that told you all of that shit. But like the new version of it doesn't have a manual.
Right,
and
now,
it,
now
know,
you gotta
like-
now you gotta judgel it.
Yeah.
And, like, and again, that goes back to what I was saying. I don't want to have to do that. I don't want to have to like go outside of the game to learn how to play the game. Like I hate having to do that. It's like it's something that pisses me off so much is any time that I have to do that. And I don't see the value or purpose of making me do that. To play,
Right.
You know.
Frustration is the purpose.
Sure.
I feel like I've got plenty of that in my life already. I don't need more of it. In my leisure time, I don't need my leisure activities also providing me with that. But I mean, then again, that's why I'm not a roller coaster tycoon. You know, I guess I don't have what it takes. So,
Your theme park would be horrible.
yeah, it would be. Every theme park that I've tried to make on Planet Coaster has failed, bankrupt in a month, every time. So that's just me.
But yeah. But yeah, that's kind of all I wanted to bring up. I just wanted to like see what y'all thought was good stuff and also complain about the tutorial. Because even though I really am enjoying the game, but it's just like because I've played Divinity 2 and especially so recently that some of my frustrations with Divinity 2 are just being reinforced in this new game, and I wanted to complain about it.
Yeah.
Well, that's fair.
I liked it. I was thinking about it. I was like, I think we have at some point talked about tutorials, but
Yeah.
who the fuck knows when, you know?
Maybe never. Maybe 5 times. Who can say?
I think we've talked about like I know we've talked about like certain types of tutorials, like whenever
Yes.
like an item flashes and stuff, but I don't know if we've done it in this like aspect. But if
Well,
so,
like I
cool.
know Ryan and I have talked about like training mode in fighting games. I know we've talked about that, you know. But
Yeah. Was there anything else that y'all want to bring up or any closing thoughts?
my closing thought is make video games simple enough that you don't need to give me a tutorial. You know? 2 buttons.
Or give me a whole book. Give me back a game guide when I buy your game.
No,
I-
nobody wants to do that anymore. Nobody wants. I mean, look, people. Like, I'm sure James Sandusky still wants manuals in their fucking video games, you know.
Bad for the
But
environment.
nobody's
I'm bad
doing
for the
it.
environment.
Like, yeah, just make games that only take 2 buttons to play.
Yeah. Go and jump.
Then
No,
I'll
give
figure
me-
it out.
Yeah.
Give me all the stat and item management and tell me the most optimized ways to do it, please and thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would just second what Tom said. Just In fact, I hope that in the next 10 years, every video game is operated with one button.
Look,
That's
I've been playing Kirby,
That's
right?
called an Atomi.
And like Kirby, you move around, and then you got a button to suck,
Yeah.
a button to swallow,
Yeah.
and a button to jump.
Yeah,
And that's it, you know?
There's a button to spit too. Is that the same button as the suck button?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So. Kirby,
Yeah,
Kirby knows how to have a good time, basically.
Yeah. And he'll teach you.
But yeah, our Discord will be linked somewhere. We are on most podcast apps. And bye, guys.
Bye-bye.